Okay, so we are live. I might just not yell into the mic straight away, just not to scare anyone that's actually watching. Okay, hello and welcome. We are the Aussie guys. I'm AJ. Here with me is G. How are
in
you,
the back
G?
seat of the bus as always.
The back seat of the
but you
bus.
are the driver of this podcast.
I
so
am.
I'm more than happy to. And I'm not looking my best this morning. It's early. I haven't put makeup on. I raced out of the house.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to all the mums. Yes.
Yes, all the mums that subscribe and listen to our podcast can probably count that on one hand. Probably even no fingers.
Yes.
Yes. But we do have a special guest.
Count them on Kenny Pickett's hands.
Oh, man. Some of the Kenny Pickett memes have been, probably beyond cruel. Pretty funny, though.
Let's introduce our guest before
we will, yeah. Addison Hayes, we had the pleasure of your company with us last year. It was brilliant talking running backs. Obviously, you will know him from DLF and all sorts of podcasts and guest appearances, etc. And I sort of put in the description, Addison, the RB guru. Well, we're touting you as the RB guru. I think RBs is sort of where you.
It looks better for our promo.
You hang your hat, isn't it? Running backs. Yeah. Anyway, welcome.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm so excited to be here to kind of redo what we did last year. I know last year's class was, I feel like it was kind of easier at the top to talk about, but the later round players, I mean, I'm so happy that I hit on Elijah Mitchell, and I'm excited to kind of get into that analysis again to see if we can find those types of players today for this year. So thank you guys so much for having me on, and I'm so pumped.
Oh, that's just great.
That's awesome. Thank you.
We were chatting off air, and once we got onto Christian Watson, AJ was sort of jumped in and said, let's just start this pod and, let's talk about running backs, because you and I think was going to get a little bit heated. So before we get into running backs, can we just go on with that? Like, just you said you're not a
Christian Watson fan.
Yeah, well, sort of like a hater came up, didn't it? Come on, let's Christian Watson hater. That's what you are.
I'm that's probably what you can define me as. I mean, where do you want me to start? Like the list of things that I don't like in his profile. I see the upside.
There's nothing athletic about it that you can hate.
No. And that's where the upside lies, is that the dude is like 6'3" or 4. He is a little small. Like he's a lanky dude. I don't know if he hit 200 pounds or not. But he's right around there. And then, of course, he's paired with Aaron Rodgers for however many years that goes on as potentially the wide receiver 1 for Green Bay. But, I mean, this is a guy, he's 23 years old right now. So that's like number one. First thing off the thing. Because I'm an analytics guy. So this is what I'm coming from, is that background. 23 years old, don't like that. He was a 4-year player, don't really like that. He went to North Dakota State. So, don't like the lower level of competition, not even to mention the fact that he wasn't even super productive at a lower level of competition. And I know that they didn't throw the ball all that much, but even like the adjusted like dominator rating and market share, yards per team pass attempt, all that stuff didn't really come to him until his final season. So it's just a whole bunch of stuff that I don't necessarily like about Christian Watson. And I said in my analysis before, when I was doing YouTube videos for DLF, that he is essentially like an overhyped Antonio Gandy Golden. Like he's just like AGG with draft capital.
Okay.
So that's I get the upside and I see all of that there, but just like in the first round of rookie drafts, nah.
Okay, let's. Yeah, you just upsetting me the more you spoke. Then, no, but I see. I when I drafted him, I think it was about 109 in our draft last night.
That's about his ADP right now.
Yeah. There was a couple of guys gave me a hard time about like his drops. Have you watched the quarterbacks throw him the ball? Like the dude is gone. He's got 2 or 3 steps on it, and he's having to like look back and catching balls on his shoulder because the quarterbacks couldn't actually throw. Like, mate, he's got Lance throwing him the ball. Look, to me, he was the biggest bust of the quarterbacks taken last year.
Mhm.
So that I see what you're saying, but mate, how many catches did he have? 48 last year or something for almost 900 yards, like 800 and something yards or whatever it was. Like, mate, and then 7 touchdowns, whatever. Mate, you give him double that. Do you just double everything? And he's a give him he's a 1,400 yard catch and 14 touchdowns if they threw the ball to him more. Like, his quarterbacks weren't that great. They're not good. Mate, and in some games they're changing one quarterback out for another one. So how well can you do?
Yeah. I totally get that point. And that's kind of where, like, when you look at when I'm coming from like the analytics perspective and stuff like that, you know, that context isn't necessarily in there, unless you like really dig in and you're really trying to figure out what's going on with these players. And I just don't really have the time to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, I'm not like a professional scout. So
no, neither.
But like what I'm seeing in my profile for him is just comparable to a lot of other players that didn't perform at the NFL level, despite all of the athleticism that they had coming in as well, and were taken highly in the NFL draft. The NFL loved their height and weight and speed, and it's just like, Henry Ruggs came into the NFL with like 1 touchdown every like 5 catches, and
yeah, well, we know that's not sustainable though, don't we?
Right.
No, I see what you're saying. Nice comparison, Henry Ruggs. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get on to running backs. That's why we've got you here anyway. So it's actually it's good to get you post draft, because now we can talk about who you like pre-draft. Now we know a landing spot for some of these guys. So I'm guessing.
I'll just be a second.
Yeah. I'm guessing some guys have moved up and gone down on your board with the landing spot. So
a little bit.
Let's talk pre-draft. Like, who are the guys that say, well, we could say your top 5, but everybody does that. But who are the guys that you really like coming out? I take it like I watched Kenneth Walker first, and I text Jerry Sinclair from the Dynasty Warzone, because he's a Spartans guy, and I sent him a text and with a GIF of I put a hooker on there. Just say that, like, me love you long time. Like, how good this guy is, fantastic. And then I went and watched Breece Hall about 4 guys later and said, okay, I think this guy's just sort of gone past Kenneth Walker. But it's so close. It's so close between those two. So where did you have it? If they are your 1 and 2 at all?
They are for sure my 1 and 2, both pre and post draft. It went Breece Hall and then Kenneth Walker, which I feel like was kind of consensus. Breece Hall just hit on a lot of the stuff that I'm looking for. Like, he had the early production, he had the reception volume. He's 21 years old, 2nd round pick. He has the measurables, the speed, everything that I want out of a running back. Breece Hall has. Now, Kenneth Walker also has, I'd say, about 80 to 90% of what Breece Hall also has. He didn't have the early production, which I don't know what the heck happened at Wake Forest, like what was going on down there, if that was incompetence, if that was preferring an older running back to, a freshman and a sophomore. I don't know what happened there. And then he also didn't have the receiving volume, which has been a massive conversation piece for Kenneth Walker. That I'm not necessarily knocking him for, because, Michigan State was horrible at giving screen passes and touches to Kenneth Walker in the receiving game. Like, he showed the ability to catch. That's not something that I think that he can't do. My fear was that the NFL, with the sample size that they got from him in college and the tape that they have, was going to typecast him as like an Antonio Gibson kind of player, where he needs somebody else. He needs a JD McKissick or a Nyheim Hines. I don't think he has that in Seattle. I think there's a possibility that Seattle is one of those teams that is going to be more willing to throw him out there on 3rd down. Chris Carson had 40 plus receptions in 2019 and 2020. So and I know that was with Russell Wilson, and their whole direction's all different. But, if you give Kenneth Walker 40 plus receptions every year, that's more than enough of a baseline on a receiving game to help him out in fantasy, to where everything that he does on the rushing side is going to be fantastic. So,
have you already seen the clip of him catching the one-handed? Like, fuck, here we go. Like, seriously, this is. I don't understand the football community and whatever fantasy, or we do this shit every year. Have we not learned? Like, because we bring this up a lot because of the sport AFL here. Like, catching a football is the most basic thing that we do in our sport. Like, everybody can do it. Like, you know, even the uncoordinated kids can catch a football here.
Right.
So we see this one-handed catches. Oh my God! And like that happens 50 times a game in our sport because the ball's in the air. So it's all premised on kicking and catching. And I see stuff like that, and people are going, "See, you can't like, mate. For one, he didn't catch it cleanly. He tipped it up to himself and then caught it on the second hop. And by then, there's probably a linebacker cleaned him up in between the." But it's just like,
that's what made it amazing. It was a one-handed catch. Geez,
I know. We're going to see wide receivers are going to go skyrocket up boards because they did, you know, took a one-handed catch at camp. It's like, man, like this, that doesn't make anything. Look at Sammy Watkins was pulling him off when he first came in and really never did anything for anybody in fantasy. So, yeah, I just, he can't catch out of the backfield. Look at this. Well, okay, yeah, whatever.
Without pads on, nobody
without pads on. Yeah. I did like some people put on their anybody can wear somebody else's jersey with a helmet. We don't know if it's actually him, which is good. It
was actually DJ Dallas.
So,
gee, I might jump in because I think you might be interested in these two. We're talking about these two guys.
They're the two guys that AJ's looked at.
Well, okay, I haven't looked at a lot. Okay, but we're seeing this. Sorry, this long and winding question here, but we're seeing this. We can call it a trend at wide receiver in the NFL with like AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill, and Devontae Adams.
You're talking about running backs.
I realize, but I think we've been seeing that at running back for a little while already, because you can only get a few good years out of a running back, and running backs get to their second contract, and it can be a little bit like, well, an average guy, we can put an average guy behind this line and get pretty much the same kind of result instead of paying this really high price for this guy we've developed or someone who's on the free agency market, right? So, geez, frowning at me, get to the question. I was really
just wondering where you're going.
Yeah, I was really particularly interested. Now, there was a lot of talk about Washington getting running backs in the pre-draft process, right, to interview. And so it wasn't really, I guess, a surprise that they drafted a running back, you know, reasonably high. And I'm interested to hear your opinion on Brian Robinson. But also the other thing which we saw was Zamir White going to the
we're
Raiders.
not even at these guys.
Oh, you don't want me to talk about
Oh, no, that's all right. I can bring him up. You can bring him up.
The reason I bring him up is because of the situation, because...
And I told you not to bring up Zamir White. He's someone I'm targeting on a lot of my fantasies, so you just blew it.
Now, those are both interesting guys. We're not talking about 6th or 7th rounders. We're not talking about just Jags. We're talking about guys that have got some skills. What's your opinion of those guys and also the landing spot?
Brian Robinson to me is the really interesting and something that I actually found when I was figuring out what the heck to do with Antonio Gibson from a dynasty perspective. Who I'm like selling Antonio Gibson if you haven't already. Like, you need to be done with him because it's not looking good. Somebody asked, or like reporters asked Ron Rivera, you know, what was the whole process with selecting Brian Robinson in the 3rd round? Like, you can argue if 3rd round is significant or not, but it kind of ish is.
In this year's class, it is, isn't it?
I would think so. For the most part. Yeah.
We only start drafting running backs in the second day. I mean, day 2. So 3rd round is significant in that sense.
Right. So when Ron Rivera was asked, you know, what was the process with Brian Robinson, he noted off, he was like, well, he's a fantastic runner. I think he does a lot of things that Antonio Gibson and JD McKissick both like don't do. Like he's a different style of running back than both of them. So he can fit really well into like making a trifecta of a running backfield, basically, where they can have all three of these guys do different things. But then he specifically noted that Brian Robinson is really good at taking care of the football, which if you weren't aware, Antonio Gibson fumbled 6 times last year in 15 games, 6 times, lost 4 of them. Both of those numbers were like hands and like or just way above anything else that all the running backs, like all the other running backs did. That was like just head and shoulders above everybody else, first in the league, and most fumbles lost. So that seems like something that Ron Rivera is kind of not on board with anymore from Antonio Gibson. And they purposely chose Brian Robinson as a player that can come in, do things differently than JD McKissick and Antonio Gibson to fit a 3-headed backfield. And he noted that he can trust Brian Robinson from what he saw in college at Alabama with securing and taking care of the football, something that Antonio Gibson struggled with mightily last year. So
Now, the problem with Robinson too is I don't see him as a 3-down back though.
No,
because like
McKissick
you see him catch.
there.
Yeah, I was going to say because you see him catch the ball. So as far as fantasy goes, he's not going to. He's in PPR. He's basically a non-PPR running back, isn't he? If like
Right.
you're not going to get catch like he does catch some balls, but you know some running backs just don't look confident catching the football. It's just not the gig, and you see him catch it, but you see the hesitation when the ball's coming to it. You can see him thinking about catching the football. You don't want a running back. You just want it. Just it's a natural thing, and he's like. But man, he just runs through people. He's a powerfully put together. Oh, what is 6 foot, 214 pounds. So he can probably carry a bit more size on his frame. Probably maybe get to put 6 pounds on is nothing when he starts getting into the pros, into the gyms, and you know the whole. If he's listens to what the dietitians and that say, easily carry another 6 pounds. You get to 220. He's become a very good 6 foot, 220 pounds. That's with his power. That's a hard guy to stop, and he shows that at Alabama.
Right. And that's what I'm interested in Robinson as if they don't keep Antonio Gibson, but that's a couple years down the road. I think what Robinson does is just hurt Antonio Gibson a lot more. I don't know if you're ever going to be happy with any 3 of these guys when they're all healthy. Like if Gibson goes down, and then you probably will be able to play Robinson in fantasy. And if Robinson were to miss time, then you're probably more confident in Antonio Gibson because he kind of reclaims that alpha role a little bit to what he was, last year with just him and McKissick. But it's just like long term, I don't really like any of those guys. And Gibson carries a lot of dynasty weight right now. And something that I want to get off of. Like if you can sell Gibson for Ezekiel Elliott plus, if people hate Zeke, I'm all for it. Elijah Mitchell plus, Josh Jacobs plus, like, and Jacobs is another person to kind of segue that into Zamir White.
Yes. Right. Here we go. He's not good, Zamir White. He's crap. So don't draft him. Help me out here, dude. Help me out.
I don't like Zamir White. So
really? Good. This is nice. All right.
Yeah. Why? Like, I get that he was Georgia, and Georgia never gives any one running back the ball. The whole Nick Chubb, Sony Michel kind of thing. DeAndre Swift didn't take much, but like,
and then we have White Cook, didn't we, this year?
Yeah, Zamir White to me was the second best running back on the team. I think James Cook is definitely better. And I also just don't think Zamir White is as good. Obviously, he's not as good as DeAndre Swift or as good as Nick Chubb. I don't even know if he was as good as Sony Michel. I get the draft capital and why he fell to a couple rounds, later than maybe we projected him to be. Some people thought that he could maybe be a second rounder. I didn't see that. I don't really see the Zamir White love. And I don't think he fell far enough in rookie drafts because he's going to be the RB3 in Vegas. I know that, like, you know, Josh Jacobs is going to be gone next year, maybe because they didn't pick up his option. And I think Kenyon Drake is also a free agent. So, you know, you can quickly see how he can just ascend to RB1 on the depth chart. But I don't think Vegas is going to do that. I think they're just going to, like, Eno Benjamin or Chase Edmonds this guy and just sign a free agent next year, or, you know, even bring Josh Jacobs back on a cheaper contract. I think Zamir White is fine as a handcuff, but when you're paying late second round prices for a handcuff, you know, I don't get it, unless you're not getting him in the second. I've been seeing different rookie drafts, but
Okay. Well, so if you're not willing to take late second on Zamir, and I'd take a late second on him. I think it's really hard to. You can only judge by what they're given to do, especially on Georgia. Like you spoke about Cook. The problem I have with Cook is I see. What did I write down with him? I compared him to someone which scared me a little bit, which was Anthony McFarlane. I see a little bit of Anthony McFarlane in Cook, in that he can go between the tackles, but I think his instinct is more to, okay, there's nothing in front of me, so instead of being a little bit patient, I'm quicker than everybody else. I'm gonna take it to the outside, which is all I saw Anthony McFarlane do. And I saw a little bit of that, and that scared me a little bit. But if you go, I got up this morning and I thought, well, I'll just quickly go and have a look at the highlights just to put all these guys back in my head, because I've looked at so many, they all become just a blurred mess. Yeah. So I went and had a look, and I'm looking at my notes, and I'm going, if people sat down, and I think it's more in running backs than any other position, if you sat down and watched highlights of someone and you base it on that, I think running backs are the position that can give you the biggest skew. Where wide receivers what you see in a lot of them, I must admit, the good guys, is pretty much what you see in a game. But with running backs, I'm looking at some of these, I'm looking at my notes going, man, I don't have what I'm seeing in his highlight reel. Do you find that more? I think more this year than any other year for me, particularly.
Well, I mean, this year is really weird just in general. There's a lot of guys who could be something and could just not be anything. Like, it's Breece Hall, it's Kenneth Walker, and then just a bunch of question marks.
Yes. Yeah. Like the drop off is quite considerable.
Right.
When people had Spiller as like the third guy, a lot of people did. Yeah. And I liked Spiller. And then I went and looked at his highlight reel. I'm going, he actually probably looked more how he played in his highlights than any other guy. I'm thinking, I just don't know about who to take as the third running back now. It's all come down to landing spot now, hasn't it? Really?
Yeah. I mean, you want to hear something sad? Isaiah Spiller is still my RB3.
Okay.
He was my RB3 pre-draft, and he stayed that way post-draft.
Yep.
But I was comfortable pre-draft. I was like, oh, if Spiller gets like second, maybe early third round draft capital, you know, I'm still on him in the first round. But like, now that he was a day 3 pick, and he's still my RB3, but that means that he's like my RB3 in like the mid second. Like, it's not fun at all. And James Cook is right there with them. I have both of them in the same tier. If you would prefer to have James Cook as your RB3, then I'm all for it. I don't know how I feel about Buffalo yet for a player of his skill set. But I like Isaiah Spiller just because I think that he's just fine at everything. I think he's definitely the best running back that the Chargers have ever had, besides, like, next to Austin Eckler. I think he's better than Justin Jackson. He's better than, I don't even remember who the other
Melvin Gordon.
Who's the other one they have there at the moment?
Larry Roundtree.
Roundtree. I think I have
Joshua Kelly.
Oh, yeah, that's the other one too.
Yeah,
all those guys.
Yeah.
So I think he immediately comes in as the RB2, and I think that he could be a little bit more than what all those players were on a weekly basis. And then the other thing I like too is we saw last year, like when Eckler went out, Justin Jackson had a few games where he was really good for fantasy.
Yeah.
So I think Isaiah Spiller can definitely do that, but I think he makes a little bit more of an impact every single week because Eckler keeps getting older. They want to keep him fresher. The Chargers are now like legit playoff contenders as well. They were like one coaching decision away from making the playoffs last year. So I think they want to keep him fresh, and his contract goes all the way until he's 29 years old. So like Eckler isn't getting any younger, and the hits that he keeps taking every single game, the Chargers probably want to diminish that with a player like Isaiah Spiller, who's coming in fresh, had a productive 3 seasons at Texas A&M. And I just think that he is, I've said this like all draft season. I was like, Isaiah Spiller is a good running back. He's just not great at any one thing. Like he's just good at everything. Like he can run between the tackles fine. He can catch pretty well. He can find the end zone pretty fine, but like none of those things are a strength of his. He's just like kind of like a semi-dull Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, like what he ran in the 40, like a 4.64, which is not exactly
a pro day 4.64. Which
who cares? Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, like what have I got down here? I think things like his patience, like there's a lot of running backs that people are talking about. I'm thinking, man, that don't show. I would have thought Le'Veon Bell changed the landscape a little bit for how patient you can be as a running back and still get yards. Like you don't have to just get the ball and find the first hole and then burst through.
Or run into your center's back.
Or run, yeah. And mate, there's a few guys in here that actually run in like cut into the offensive line. Like what are you seeing? But like you said, I just found him like a smart running back. Like you can see his IQ, you can see the thought process, and that's sort of what you want in your running back. And he has like a really good understanding of how his O-line works for him. Instead of once I've got the ball, I got to make something happen.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think I moved him. I think just his landing spot behind Eckler. You're just wondering, like, you need a Eckler injury for him to become something for you, particularly this year. If you're grabbing him,
yeah. I mean, he's not going to be fun to start when Eckler is healthy. Like that's not going to be anything that you want to do. And I'm not saying to. I just think that he makes more of a weekly impact than Jackson or Kelly or any of them did when Eckler's also there as well. Like I could see like 10 touches pretty easily. You don't want 10 touches because that could be 30 yards. You get 3 fantasy points.
Right.
But from a Chargers standpoint, I see where they're going with Isaiah Spiller. And then you have the upside that if Eckler were to get hurt, I think that you have an RB2 for sure in Isaiah Spiller on those weeks.
So you we spoke about, you brought up James Cook, like make a second round value, second round investment in him. He's probably not. If you that I was listening to some people talk about Singletary this week, mate. His yards per carry is really good. So
yeah,
and to me, James Cook, he's not a 3 down back. He's not even. Honestly, I think he'd be the type of guy that if Singletary went down, Cook's going to struggle to be that guy. He is your 3rd down guy. So what value do you get out of him outside of PPR leagues? Or if you have him not in PPR leagues, you just hope that every time he touches the ball out of the backfield, he gives you 10 yards a carry. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's it. I see do you remember Giovanni Bernard on the Bengals when Joe Mixon got hurt? Like his rushing line would be like 13 carries for 29 yards, but he'd have 7 receptions. And a receiving touchdown from the 10-yard line, and you have an 18-point fantasy day and you're super happy. But like the rushing just wasn't there. So I kind of see that with James Cook. I'm a little concerned about his PPR upside just kind of in general. Like the Bills have been a team that throws the ball to the running back position like a really low amount. Like I think they've only totaled really like 80, and then I think it was 60, mid 60s targets to the running back position in total, like the last couple of years. And Singletary has been a big chunk of that in each of those 2 years. So I know that, like, we saw the Bills. They went out and they signed J.D. McKissick before he decided not to sign.
Yep.
And then they filled that role with the James Cook. Like, I see that they want to do that. I'm not sure if the execution is necessarily going to be there. For James Cook to be PPR relevant on a consistent basis, that you're kind of happy starting him. And everybody's like, he's getting thrown into the back end of the first round because of how bad this rookie class is overall for dynasty drafts. And that's that's a sign to me of how bad this class is, that I don't want to make that pick.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because I just see, like, if Singletary does go down, he's not the guy. Like, I watch how many games I watch. I watch him play Clemson, Alabama, Florida, and Michigan.
So, like, all the best teams.
Yeah, so you want to judge them against the best teams, don't you?
Right,
really,
for sure.
The
most NFL like.
Yes, the most NFL like. So usually what I find is each game a player can look a little bit different. Depending on who the line that the defense are playing against. And, there's a lot of other things I've brought up in pods before, like stupid things like the color of the uniform can make someone look better than they actually are. It's the most bizarre thing. It can make them look quicker, make them look bigger, make them look smaller. The camera angle I've spoke about, you just where you place the camera, it can make you look like a better runner. I think the higher the camera is positioned at a football ground, the more you actually see the real player. Then, some cameras are quite low in the stands. So it looks like you're getting in amongst, geez, he's great between the tackles. But you put the camera up higher and, mate, he's got like 2 yards to run through a hole. But I looked at James Cook. So what I find is each game I might write down something and then it's sort of counteracted by the next game I watched. But the one thing with James Cook that I wrote down in every game is he doesn't break tackles.
I think I did see that as well, like from a PFF kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Too easily brought to the ground. Well, he's not a big guy, though, is he? 5'11", 190 pounds.
No. But, I mean, he runs like a 4.4, so I guess that's not really coming in with, like, broken tackles. He's just running faster than people.
He's just running faster, yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a weird thing for him to like not be able to just like break tackles. And that could be something and a reason why that doesn't really translate in the NFL, like why he doesn't really translate in the NFL.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of guys that in this class that I don't know what it was this year, but mate, their offensive lines from most part of these guys gave them some huge holes. Like this, I have to go through them all and have another look. But mate, some of the guys that people are talking about, go and have a look at the games. Anybody should be able to, except Richardson. He wouldn't be able to find a hole in a lot of these. But I think the commentators too make these guys out to be better than they are because he's burst through a hole. Yeah, but the hole was like it was a yard across between
shot
the two
out of the backfield. Like
shot out of the back. Yeah, exactly. You know why that happened? Because there was no one there. Which I found. So who's another guy? Day 3, Tampa Bay go and take Rachaad White. Now he's a little. Some people like him, some people don't. How are you looking at him? Like, I think this year, after what we saw from Leonard Fournette last year, I don't know how much opportunity he's going to get unless something happens to Leonard Fournette. He's going to be, if anything, just you want to rest, and we'll give this guy a bit of a few carries and see what he can do this year.
Yeah, he was my RB4 pre-draft, RB5 after. He got bumped by James Cook just because Cook had the better draft capital. I didn't bump Cook all the way over Spiller because I still think Spiller's landing spot was good, maybe slightly better than James Cook.
So you just dished Cook and still had him at 4, and because you did say that this class is just not good.
That's right.
Yeah,
so that's not how bad it is.
It's not good. And White is another one of those guys that he's in like the second round of rookie drafts, and I don't really want to pull the trigger on Rachaad White either. I find the Tampa Bay Buccaneers like the conversation about how the Buccaneers is a good landing spot for a running back. Like that totally didn't make sense to me because it was like you said, like Leonard Fournette signed a 3-year deal. Now it's a 2-year deal technically because he can get cut
Yep.
on the 3rd deal. The Buccaneers can do whatever they want with him. But it's like a pretty nicely sized 2-year deal. And we saw what Fournette did last year. And I know it's Ronald Jones and maybe Bruce Arians didn't like Ronald Jones. I still think he's a decent running back. At least where I think Rachaad White is at least on his level, maybe a little bit better. But Ronald Jones didn't do anything last year. And neither did really Giovanni Bernard.
No.
It was all Leonard Fournette. So if they're just repeating what they did last year, why are we assuming that another running back is coming in to take away carries and snaps from, Leonard Fournette, unless he does get hurt? Like, I don't really see the impact that Rachaad White has on this team as a rookie to where you're going to be happy with anything that he produces from a fantasy perspective. And then you have next year where maybe he cuts the gap a little bit more because Fournette is, they're trying to do whatever with Fournette, and maybe Tom Brady's not even there. That's like the other thing as well. Is like, yeah, you have to wait until he kind of gets past Leonard Fournette. But by the time he gets past there, Tom Brady's not on the team. What are the Buccaneers? Like, are we even going to be happy with them as a team to where we want players on that team, especially from a running back? Because they could easily go back to being, a 5 or 6, 7 win team. And that might not be great for fantasy. So I don't see the Buccaneers as a really good landing spot compared to what a lot of other people thought and kind of what the the drumbeat was on that stance. I do like Rachaad White. I think he's interesting. I didn't really know how to value the JUCO years that he did at the beginning. Like, I just kind of threw it out there as he just didn't do anything at the beginning of his college career.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he saved that with a really productive final season at Arizona State. I think he's good. I just don't know. Like this, I'm more interested in a lot of other players in like the 3rd and 4th round of rookie drafts than I am like Cook, Robinson, Zamir White, all those other guys.
You're happy to take a flyer on another guy lower down than and not spend the rookie capital on them.
Right. I don't really want any like 2nd round players. Like even at the wide receiver position, like people are like, oh, like Wandale's a value, and you're Alec Pierce and John Mechie, and I'm like, Khalil Shakir is more interesting to me later on down the road than any of those guys. It's a weird 2nd round for me this year.
Yeah, like when I was talking before about when I was looking at this morning at the highlight reel, Rachaad White was the guy that popped out the most. If you looked at his highlight reel, you go, oh man, this guy's fantastic. How good is he? But he was the one that I saw things in his highlight reel. I said, mate, I watched how many games? I watched 1, 2 games. I watched 3 games of his, and I just didn't see any of the highlight reel in the 3 games when you actually watch him play. Like it's easy to have 20 runs a game and take 2 things out of it and put it in a highlight reel. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Especially at the beginning of college seasons when they're facing like FCS schools.
yeah, exactly. And like, I want to know what he's doing for the other 18, run carries that he gets. Mm-hmm. And I just found him that he's patient, but I wrote down here he's patient to the point where something opens up and he's not quick enough to go, okay, that's my time to go. I'll wait just a little bit longer. And by the time you decide to go, the hole at the end is no longer there. It might be there at the beginning, but it's like the Millennium Falcon going through, I don't know what, through, and everything's closing up and they just scoot through, but he doesn't scoot through because it's closed by then. Yeah. That's what I found with him. And but you go look at I was looking at the tape this morning. I'm going, do I have to change something about him? And so I'm a little bit confused, but I'll stick with what I saw in the 18 carries compared to the 2 they put in the highlight reel. So, who else can we talk about? There's a heap of guys here who do. So you want to talk about some later guys that went.
So I have a suggestion. Yeah. I have a suggestion for you because this guy has been a a popular conversation piece on Twitter as well after his beloved Houston Texans landing spot. What do you see with Dameon Pierce? Like, are you on that train that he was undervalued and underutilized at Florida, and when the Texans got a steal in him, and when they figure out how to, just to give Dameon Pierce 250 carries on the Houston Texans, that's gonna be the game changer for him.
Okay, now so I watched him play Georgia, Florida State. She's only watched him play twice because sometimes there's just not enough film on these guys. I don't know where the pros go and get. You have a look, and they looked at 6 games. I said, where do you? Obviously, you got to pay money to find these sites, and I'm a tight ass, so I'm just going to get what comes for free.
They have a few more resources than we do.
Yeah. So, look, I some of the things I've written down here. I said vision and footwork to match what he sees, punishing runner, especially he gets into the linebacker and safeties, and he gets that speed up and going. Powerful back that runs with bad intentions, needs a small runway to get to his top speed, runs through arms tackles, rolls his shoulders to slip tackles, which is something that I really liked about Zeke when he came out. Like Zeke still doesn't get hit. Like he gets brought down, but he doesn't get hit.
Right.
He still moves his body in a way just before it gets hit that he doesn't take those big punishing blows. He reminds me a little bit of that. Lacks true burst. Pad level. It really runs good pad level. I just said one intense motherfucker. I said his lateral movement is pedestrian.
Who are you, Samuel L. Jackson?
So his lateral movement isn't that great. He instead of like planting and going, it's sort of like a couple of small steps, which I've noticed a lot about a lot of these running backs are not really that. Kenneth Walker and that and Bryce Hall are different. They put their foot in the ground and change direction, and they don't. That's it, bang, gone, and they accelerate out of it. A lot of these guys I've found in this class, they don't have the acceleration out of a true hard cut. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. The more like I call them 45-degree cutters instead of cutting on a 90. It's more of a 45-degree sort of cut. He's a good blocker. To the point where he gives his quarterback enough time to get rid of the football. I found that in this class, in this running back class. If you're looking for a blocking running back, there's not a lot. Like some of these guys just don't even. I'll just slip out of the backfield and do nothing, and then I don't want to block.
I'll try to go like this to the blitzing linebacker on the edge.
Yeah. Well, I just like I'm slipping out of the backfield to catch the pass, but I'm not really. I just want to get out of the. I just want to get out of this. Out of doing blocking duties. Good center of gravity. And look, he only caught 19 passes, so he's more of your 2 down sort of back. So that's how I saw him.
Yeah. So do you like him in Houston? Because his value got bumped up hard.
I think he's the type of guy that you could start straight away and just let him start carrying the football. 5'10", 215 pounds. He's not a big, like as in height wise, but he's a solidly put together guy.
Doug Martin.
And you got to run. You got to run with the way that he runs. You got to run with that intensity. When you hit the pros, and he's doing it in college, and I don't see why it's going to be any different when he takes a step up. But mate, it's like how the hell do we know? We see guys that show nothing, and then they jump to the next level because it's just their mindset to move. I got to be better, and then there's the guys that shrink. They're great in college, and they just for some reason they just start playing in the pros, and it's one massive turkey shoot, isn't it? Really.
And if you're playing the landing spot game, then I mean the Texans a team that's going to be winning the time of possession battle. I don't know. Although the opposition teams they could be grinding it out on them, but they also could have short fields. They could have a lot of short fields and just score. But it just doesn't. That doesn't thrill me. I can't see the Texans as being a team that hangs onto the ball for 90-yard drives.
Right.
How did you say?
When Dameon Pierce got picked,
Mm.
the first thing I did, I quote tweeted that tweet from the people saying who was picked, and I said, "There it is, this year's Trey Sermon and Keyshawn Vaughn." I said,
Okay.
just the player that the day 3 player, or later, I guess they're both maybe 3rd round picks, but a later round running back that we have just the landing spot goggles on,
Right.
and we just immediately raise their value, because it's like, how do they not, just completely blow the gates open at this new team, and they're going to ascend the depth chart so easily because they're better than everybody on that team. And like, I just, and I saw that value happen. I've seen Dameon Pierce in the back end of the first. I've seen Dameon Pierce at the 201, the 202. I'm not against him in like the middle of the second, because you get to the point where it's just like, I don't even know where to go from here. That, he does have a solid chance of winning that backfield pretty easily over Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead. But again, is the Texans running back somebody that we want?
That's it though, isn't it? It's like we have preconceived landing spots, and if you go there, sometimes it doesn't matter who goes there, as long as they go there.
Yeah,
right.
And it doesn't work like that. It's got to be a match of player and landing spot, not just
scheme.
landing spot.
Right.
Coach.
Yeah.
Like I thought the Texans, I had them on my short list of, I would like a top running back. Like, I wouldn't mind if Breece Hall went here, or Kenneth Walker. Because I thought then, at least with the like, I would know for sure that they're getting volume. Because I was like, they are without a doubt better than anybody on that team. They're getting 250 touches minimum. I was like, it probably wouldn't be fantastic because the efficiency wouldn't be there. The touchdowns might not be there. But those backs are good enough to where they can make something out of nothing with that type of volume. Anybody else, though, I'm just not sure. And like a 4th round pick, to the Texans, like, I'm not sure if we're in love with that. The last relevant Houston Texans running back was Carlos Hyde in 2019, finished as the RB 28. He had 245 carries for 1,070 yards and 6 touchdowns, but he averaged less than 10 fantasy points per game.
Yep.
Like, do we want that? Like, he's a 1,000-yard rusher. He only caught 10 passes. Maybe Dameon Pierce catches more.
Well, whoever I'm playing against in fantasy that week, I hope that they have him and they get that. That'd make me happy. Right.
Like 10 fantasy points per game. That's not what you want when you're drafting at a borderline 1st round, early 2nd round pick. I actually, even just yesterday, posted a poll because I saw too much disrespect for another player that I thought was super similar to Dameon Pierce. And I posted a poll. I said, who would you rather have between these 2 rookie running backs? I said, both these guys are day 3 picks. They're both like basically the same size. Their 40-yard dash was separated by 0.01 seconds. But one running back was very productive in college. The other running back, not so much. And the poll was 84%. They preferred the running back who was more productive in college with basically the exact same measurables. And that was Tyler Algier. And the other player was Dameon Pierce. But I saw way too many people say, oh, we're falling in love with a day 3 pick just because of landing spot and a player that didn't really test well at the combine. And they were talking about Tyler Algier. Whereas I was like, Dameon Pierce is like, he did the exact same thing at the combine and just doesn't have the college production, So I question a lot of the narratives that come around with Dameon Pierce just because he went to Houston, even though I think Atlanta could be just as potentially as good of a landing spot. I mean, Cordell Patterson is still there, but there's opportunity that if Tyler Algier is actually good, he should get on the field because they have like nobody else. They have 2 good wide receivers. Well, Pitts is a wide receiver.
Yes.
And Drake London. And then Cordell Patterson and nothing. So, if he's talented, he should get on the field and should receive carries. And at the end of the day, if Dameon Pierce is the RB 28 like Carlos Hyde, I would not be surprised if Tyler Algier on similar-ish, kind of volume. I wouldn't be surprised if Tyler Algier got similar volume and then also was like the RB33 and their point per game difference is negligible. But you're getting
Right.
Tyler Algier over a round later in rookie drafts.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
So-
And we saw what happened with Patterson last year is as the season went on, running back is not he's Antonio Gibson.
He's
you
a
know what I
weapon.
mean?
Like, he doesn't have a
he-
position.
No, so you saw him he really wore down. And you had him going into your fantasy playoffs last year, you're probably like, where was the guy that was in the first half? Well, he's getting worn down. So it's a good spot for Algier. Falcons, they take him in the 5th round. He had the 4.6, a 33 vert. He's got some wiggle and confined spaces. I think he lacks a bit of burst. He's more sort of a build-up speed sort of guy, which is quite weird. But if you see burst out of a running back and then you watch somebody else, you sort of get what I mean. They all look like, geez, man, he's quick. But there's burst and then there's, 2 to 3 step burst. So you need a couple to get going. I said a couple of times, too often he falls forward. Not in a good way at times. Like there's a lot of guys that lean forward going through running between tackles and they don't keep their balance. Do you know what I mean? They get through and it doesn't take much to trip them up. Like you want a guy that leans forward but he runs over his feet, not in front of him. He lacks speed to get to the outside. I found him more of a straight ahead runner. I watched him in the first 2 games I watched, he fumbled 3 times.
Oof.
So, that wasn't great. I think twice against USC, he fumbled twice.
Okay.
So that was no. I said it shows a good ability to block. He can catch the balls out of the backfield. Got good vision. Good contact balance. Look, not a bad little pickup for the Falcons. I think another guy that you go and watch his highlight reel, and he looks as they all do. As I've always said, I could make AJ look good if I put together a highlight reel of him doing stuff.
Be hard.
But like you said, maybe you're better off in waiting around and going picking up someone like that who's got the same opportunity to get carries, pretty much straight away.
Right. Yeah. Like, and he was the player that used to be a running or a linebacker. Like he dabbled at linebacker for a season at BYU.
Okay.
I don't know if it was his freshman or sophomore season, but he dabbled at linebacker for sure on the other side of the ball and then finished out as a running back. I just looked it up as well too. Mike Davis last year finished as the running back 33, averaging 8.5 fantasy points per game. So,
okay.
Wow. Okay.
Now that was on mostly 44 receptions in a PPR league, but he had 140 carries for 400 or 500 yards and a few touchdowns. So, I think there's opportunity there for sure that you're getting a similar player that, you might not want to start every single week. I probably wouldn't even recommend that you start every single week, but you're going to have opportunities and times where you can throw them in there or potentially even have to, and it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And like I said, you're getting Tyler Algier a round or maybe even more than a round later than Dameon Pierce, unless somebody really likes him as well. He's back second, but I've seen him more as a 3rd rounder.
Are there some guys that we haven't spoke about that you like in the later rounds? Because you spoke, there's a handful of guys that you'd rather take, and we haven't spoken about those handful of guys, I feel.
Keontae Ingram. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you know what? I don't know if I looked at him.
USC. Keontae Ingram.
I have to go and have a look. I don't think he's in here. But go and speak about him, please.
Oh, okay. So I love Ingram. I was looking at him. His profile came up like immediately when I was running through things. That I was like, this guy is super interesting. And I have been to the point of calling him my 2022 Elijah Mitchell. Like I've been like right there with Keontae Ingram. Because this dude has a legitimate profile. Like he's 6 foot, 221 pounds. He ran a 4.53, which is fine. He showed receiving ability at USC. He actually started out at Texas and then transferred to USC for his final 4th season. But he even had production at Texas as well too. Had a couple thousand total yard seasons there. I just like everything that I saw Keontae Ingram. I was like, this guy has the ability to do it all, and he's undervalued. I wasn't sure if he was going to get drafted. I was actually super happy to see that he was a 6th-round pick. And I saw when that pick went through, there were a few other people on Twitter that were like thankful that he got drafted as well because he was also on their radar. But I'm super excited for Keontae Ingram. He went to the Arizona Cardinals. And I think that he could be a player that, I mean, he has better draft capital than their current backup, Benjamin, right now. And they've shown like no care whatsoever about Benjamin. So, and it's basically James Conner, Benjamin, and Keontae Ingram. And James Conner, while it was healthy for the 15, 16 games last year, has shown a propensity for getting injured. So I think that there's going to be more weeks than we expect where Keontae Ingram is actually going to help you out in your fantasy leagues a lot more than some of these other running backs that we're drafting ahead of him. And he's like, and anytime I see him in the 3rd round, I'm drafting him. 301, 307, 312.
As long as it's got a 3 in front of it. It's got a 3, you're taking it.
Yeah, basically, because you don't need to draft him in the 2nd. That's the best part about him. And that's what I liked about Elijah Mitchell as well last year was like, it was the same thing as if I see him in the 3rd round, he's mine. And that's how Keontae Ingram is for me as well. Jerome Ford was also on that short list. It was unfortunate that he went to the Browns.
Yeah, that's disappointing. That's really disappointing.
Yeah. I don't know if I hate it like long term because I believe Kareem Hunt and Dearness Johnson are both free agents at the end of this year. But I just like that could so easily be they let Dearness Johnson go. Maybe they even let Kareem Hunt go in an ideal world, but like then they're drafting somebody. They're drafting like a 3rd-round pick to come in and be the actual backup, and it's not Jerome Ford. But I like when I see him in like the mid 4th, I'm like, yeah, I'm just taking Jerome Ford over Calvin Austin or somebody like that, and
he was
hope and pray that something
undrafted
happens.
free agent too. So
who Jerome?
Was he an undrafted free
Ford?
Yeah.
No, he was.
No,
he was actually a 5th-round pick. He went a whole round ahead of Keontae Ingram.
Oh wow!
Jeez, how did I put down undrafted free agent? Bloody Wikipedia. No, yeah, I down here, mate, hits the hole with speed, mate. If you blink, he's gone. Has a really good pad level on contact. He can move defenders. Good reliable hands as a pass catcher. His blocking is enough, which in this class is pretty good. And I saw him block a 270-pound guy out of Alabama in one of the games. Like just held him up, just, defensive end. Shows patience, good footwork, contact balance, low center of gravity. He's got house speed too, which I found this year too that a lot of guys, they say he's open field speed. And look, I always judge open field speed, not so much about the guys that he's already run past because they have to turn around and chase him. So you're already behind. I look at the guys that are coming in on the angle. You know what I mean? Like a safety. Like how is he keeping the safety at bay, or is his safety going to run him down? And right. I figure, okay, if he's a safety in college and he's probably not going to make the NFL, I'll give that safety another 2 steps or 3 steps quicker. And I found a lot of these guys, they say have open field speed, don't really.
Okay.
I don't know if you noticed that looking at him, because that's how it. Like I said, it's easy to. It's harder for someone to turn around and chase you than it is for someone who has a good angle on you.
Right. Who's already
Like I want you
like
to
25
outrun the.
yards deep.
Yeah, I want you to outrun the guy who's coming in on a good angle. That's the guy I want you to beat.
Yeah.
But he's got it. He's got that. His eyes and feet match up really well as well, which is something you really want out of a running back. See, feet, eyes, hand, hole, bang, gone. It's all matched up. So yeah, that's a good pickup. But yeah, like you said, Browns, it's like,
Yeah.
but we have them
That was
every year,
super
don't we,
unfortunate.
Addison? It's like,
That's just why did he go there?
it's just not going to work
Anywhere.
there. Yeah, anywhere. And the problem with the running back position is that you're not given a very big opportunity because the turnover is so big in the running back that it really helps if you can land in a running spot where you can show something in your first year.
Right. Right.
You know, and they have
Like, I would've,
have Deontay Johnson there.
Yeah, they still have Dearness Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like, man, how crowded can it get?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not great. Like I would like even if he went to like the Steelers, you know, like I think that he could have went to almost any other team where the backfield is a little bit more open. That where he has the possibility to jump in if the starter were to go down. Like if Najee were to get hurt, if he landed on the Steelers and Najee got hurt, I think Jerome Ford is out there. I think it's better than Benny Snell or McFarland or anybody like that. You know,
we always spoke about McFarland.
Yeah. So he could have went multiple other places, and I would have been happier.
Are there any? Is there any? We've been going now, so we'll wrap that up so you can get on with your Saturday night. I'm sure you're getting ready to go out somewhere or whatnot, clubbing or whatever you guys do over there.
Yeah, in front of my computer.
You probably won't head out until at least 11, 12. That's when the young people seem to head out.
Right.
Is there any undrafted free agents that you like? Their opportunity, you like them as a back? Because I've got one that I really like, and I think his lack of burst. I really like Kennedy Brooks out of Oklahoma.
That's my eyes. Like, I was looking at undrafted. I was like, Kennedy Brooks. There it is.
Oh man, I wrote the first thing I wrote is holy shit, because I usually watch a whole game before I start taking notes. You know, I don't want to just start taking notes because I find I could be going halfway through that game and go, oh, no, what I just wrote is bullshit. No, he doesn't do that well at all because he did it once at the start and I've written it down. I can do this. But I wrote down, holy shit, why aren't more people talking about this cat? And I think the problem, like, to me, he's the most patient guy of all the runners. And I put down his anal retentive without the anal part, because if you're anal retentive, you never get anything done because everything has to be perfect. So if we keep the retentive part and we get rid of the anal part, that's what he is. The one thing I think that lets him down, like you watch that Texas game, mate, he burnt Texas, like destroyed them.
Yeah.
But he lacks, the biggest thing working against him, he lacks that. If he was one step quicker, I think he'd look better to teams looking for a running back. Because even his patience, you get some guys that stand behind the line and they're patient, but they stand there like they're waiting for something to happen. He just glides. He's always moving, and his footwork at the back of the line is in a way that allows him, as soon as he sees it, he can go. It's ready to move. I just excellent vision, footwork, lateral movement without losing anything. He's one of these guys that can move laterally without coming to a complete stop. When he sees it, he goes, but he just, like I said, if he had that one step and it looked like he's bursting through the hole more, I think he would have captured the eyes of more teams. So you liked him as well.
Yeah, I did for sure. I like when I looked at his profile, I was like, why is this? I also kind of said, I was like, why is he not being talked up more. Like he was also kind of on my short list of late round players that I really, really liked. I guess it wasn't really that short of a list, but probably about half a dozen of them. Like Kevin Harris was another one as well. Of these super productive players in Power 5 conferences that just we don't really seem to care about. And I would be curious to know, like, if Brooks, it was an injury, right, in 2020, or did he opt out? I don't remember.
I actually,
but he didn't play.
I think I heard that he. I can't remember. I didn't actually look that up, to be honest. I was just looking at his film. I should probably take a bit more notice about stuff, because I only found out the other day that Zamir White had 2 ACL surgeries, one on each knee.
Yep. Yeah. In high school, like his senior year, like right before he went to Georgia. Yeah. Kennedy Brooks, he opted out. But I would be curious, like, because he had 1,000 yards his freshman year, 1,000 yards his sophomore year, opted out, 1,200 yards last year. You know, and those 1,000 yards, like he was sharing the backfield with, or not really sharing, but like he was holding Ramondre Stevenson at bay. And you know, we really like Ramondre Stevenson. And of course, any player who is the reason why Trey Sermon had to transfer out and not be good at Ohio State either is a good player in my opinion. But he was really interesting. I didn't really know why he went undrafted as well. I think the Eagles were a good landing spot for him.
Yes, I was going to say that. That's the good landing spot.
Yeah, that's one of those backfields where, you know, he can kind of, like, he's a different player than Kenneth Gainwell, you know, and Boston Scott has been like on and off the team for the past 2 years. And Miles Sanders is probably not sticking around, unfortunately, for my Penn State fandom. But like, you know, if a couple things go a certain way and Kennedy Brooks is on that roster, you know, he could see some playing time as well. That I'm very curious in, just to kind of see what happens. And I think I agree with you. Like, I do think he's very good. And I think that we should have been talking about him more. The NFL probably told us what they think about him with him being undrafted, but
they never make mistakes, mate.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You know,
like Lindsay situation here, you know?
Yeah. Like I thought the landing spot was good. When you look at Kenneth Gainwell's not that guy. He's had an opportunity and he hasn't taken it. Boston Scott, he gets the opportunity. Oh, he's the biggest add-in, and then next couple of weeks is just pedestrian at best.
Right. He's not a runner. That's why. Guy is there for one purpose, and that's to catch the ball out of the backfield.
Yes. So I think I think you could easily make this roster. I think they've just gone along and gone. Yeah, it gets to a point where teams go, this guy's not going to go drafted, and as soon as this draft stops, we're making a phone call. And that could have easily been Kennedy Brooks, I think. So is there anybody else we haven't spoke about that you'd like to bring up?
I'll give a shout out to Tyrion Davis-Price as well. He's another player that I like in the 3rd round, where like if I don't really feel like taking Keontae Ingram, or if I have a couple 3rd round picks, you know, I can grab both those guys. I like that. Ty Davis-Price, LSU running back, was drafted in the 3rd round to the Niners. Is essentially, like, if you compare his profile to Trey Sermon, TDP is basically just like a faster, better Trey Sermon. So on this San Francisco 49ers backfield, you know, on that team, that's not a backfield that I've ever shied away from for fantasy, because that you can just get any one of those guys. If they ever get plugged in for a game, you're starting them, you know, no matter really who it is. So I think he has the opportunity to be like the RB2, RB3 on that team. He could even come in ahead of Trey Sermon as well. And I'll take the shot. I like it.
Yeah, and he's definitely the type of guy that, especially with Shanahan, he knows how to scheme guys open in the backfield. And mate, if this guy gets a crease, mate, he can really make you pay too.
Yeah,
like he's not going to make guys miss in the open field, but mate, before you know it, he's 15 yards downfield, and we're not asking guys to take it to the house every time they carry it, mate. We're happy if you can, you know, mate, you get 10 yards, 10 yards, 7 yards, you know, that's great on your first. This guy can give you 15 in a blink.
Right. I think they basically just saw that they lost Raheem Mostert and they needed somebody else, because I don't think they want JaMychal Hasty to ever really be out there. I think their guy, like, I am all aboard for the Elijah Mitchell train. I think he is their guy, but Mitchell struggled to stay on the field last year. And I think that Shanahan is just like, we need as many options as I possibly can. Like he's had every single year for the past 4 or 5 years on the Niners, that TDP could just come in, and just be a guy for a week or 2 weeks. And that's more than enough to be fantasy relevant for those weeks with a third round pick.
You don't want to talk about Snoop just because he's got a name Snoop?
I love Snoop.
Just like, obviously your parents are rappers or big rap fans. Like it's not his. It can't be his real name, is it?
Honestly, I didn't.
It could be. It could be.
I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I just assumed that was his real name. But they were probably like sipping gin and juice like right before he was born, and they're like, Snoop.
It's probably watching a bit of MTV. Does MTV still exist?
I don't think it does it?
I don't know. I have no idea.
No one's watching it.
No one's watching it.
Does
no, I got no idea.
Yeah.
Addison's going, what the hell's it? What the hell's MTV? He's showing our age, AJ. Oh, I am anyway.
That's right.
So that's it, mate. No one else. You happy? Okay, give us someone late fly. Someone just in your rookie drafts.
Late
anybody,
flyer,
yeah, anybody late.
Kennedy
Big
Brooks,
mate, because mate, in this class, late could be end of the third round with the talent pool. It's as with the wide receiver class. Just because it's deep doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we basically talked about all the running backs that I think are interesting to me. Like the Patriots drafted 2, right? And I don't really know how to feel about either one of them. Hassan Haskins has given me some interest
to the Titans.
Just because they lost Deonta Foreman, so there was kind of like a hole in their backfield. I mean, obviously nobody's ever going to see the field when Derrick Henry is healthy.
Yes,
there's absolutely no reason to. But Deonta Foreman had some run. They had some run from I don't even remember who the other guy was at this point. But
he's a very good complement to Derrick Henry. Is Haskins. Like you don't have to change the offense too much for him because he runs. He's just a straight ahead runner. Like he's been. I heard someone comment just in the chat room.
230 pounds.
Yeah, like in the chat room, someone made a really good comp and said Frank Gore. Which I thought was a good comp when you look at it now.
That works.
Yeah. So he's a hard guy to bring down. So imagine you have Derrick Henry, then you have Hassan Haskins come on the field. It's like, fuck. Really?
Can we please?
Yeah.
Where's your 5'9", 180-pound running back? That'd just so much easier to tackle.
Yeah, where's your scat back? Just give us a break. Like, if this guy gets through and your linebackers just go, oh, man, my shoulders are sore enough from trying to bring down Derek, and now you're throwing this guy at us. You could seriously, and especially with what they've done at wide receiver, like obviously losing AJ Brown, and we'll see if Traylon Burks is AJ Brown. Well, we know he's not AJ Brown, obviously, but and we're just going to run the ball. Having these two guys running at you all day could be. You get into the fourth quarter, it's just like, oh my God, we're just knackered.
Yeah, it's like Bugs Bunny with the white flag. It's
just yeah. And he's good. He's got other good traits. He's a good blocker. He's very like Derek. He's just one cut and see if you can stop me, basically.
Right. Yeah,
and I don't think I've ever seen a guy. 4th round, yeah. And I've never seen a
So that's
guy
pretty-
score more carries from inside the 5, more touchdowns than this bloke. Like,
Oh, did you watch the Ohio State game? Anybody who can put up 169-5 on Ohio State is good in my book. So
yeah.
yeah.
No, he was, but I
Yeah.
think they were all like, I think 50 of those yards came from inside the 10 for the 5 touchdowns. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's just, mate, just don't even bother about throwing the football. He's just running through guys. So,
So,
I just wrote down old fashioned pounding back. Like old school, like Gore, just bang, bang. Mate, I'm not going to wear down. I'm built to do this. This is what I'm designed to do.
Just a Terminator machine, and he's just relentless, won't stop. Yep.
And
I like him. He's a 4th round rookie pick as well. 4th round NFL pick, 4th round rookie pick. So,
so don't be put off by the fact that who he's running behind.
Yeah, I mean, I think he is a perfect. If you have a taxi squad in your dynasty league,
yes,
and you could just have him just chill there. And then if Derrick Henry were to get hurt again, knock on wood that he doesn't, because I love Derrick Henry.
Yes, we all do.
But like, he's such an easy player to just sit on your taxi squad for a year or even 2 years, and if you have to call him up because Henry got hurt, he's an easy player to just call up. And I like that more than, like, people are still taking like Kyron Williams and stuff. I'm like, nah.
Yeah, no, we won't talk about Kyron. We've probably kept you long enough out of Notre Dame. What have I wrote about him? Yeah, okay, probably, yeah. That's what I've wrote. Lacks explosive speed. Laterally slow.
Straight line slow.
I said actually on his sudden change of direction, especially on like a really short 90-degree cut, like laterally, comes to a complete stop. I don't think that's good. That's not good. No. So yeah. So I actually wrote down here, when he starts up again, it's almost like it's his second carry on the same carry. Like he's starting the whole thing again. Oh, well, I've taken a mulligan. I've had the cut. Now I want to stop and let's start the run again. That's basically what I wrote about him.
Do you think that could be a benefit in the NFL? Like, did you see that like high school clip of Lamar Jackson? Like, he just like was running towards the goal line and then just stopped, and everybody else ran right past him, and he like took 2 steps into the end zone. Do you think that he could like outsmart
it? I didn't have his IQ down here, so I don't know if he could do it. But it's quite interesting you bring that up, because I say that to my son about basketball. Is there something about, he's 17? There's something about kids sometimes when they're playing basketball, which is the same in any sport, is that when you get the ball, you don't have to pass the goddamn thing straight away. When you have defenders, like you get a quick change of direction in basketball and it's a turnover, and everybody starts to run back to defend. But for some reason, kids, I've got the ball bounce, I've got to give it to somebody. If you just stop, everybody will run past you because they're expecting you to pass the ball.
Yep.
And if you look at, like, especially in our game, Addison, is that there's a guy here called Scott Pendlebury. He's not the quickest guy in the world, but what he does, he gets the ball and he moves into a position and then just stays still, and everybody moves into another position, and then he decides what to do with the football, because he's allowed everybody to show him what they're going to do.
Right.
And that can work in this, but it's probably a little bit different because you haven't got linemen running past you. You know, they're still standing there waiting for you. Well, where are you going to go, mate? I'm just waiting for you to tell me. You know what I mean?
He just kind of stands there and like shake hands and hand the ball to the ref.
Yeah. So, but I understand what you're saying about how everybody runs. You see that a bit on YouTube when you look up these young kids in high school, and they're just so far ahead of everybody else. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you see it all, and it does look quite funny. He just stands there and just waltzes into and scores.
Mm.
Yep.
But I don't see that in Kieran Williams.
Yeah, they do that in high school because they are so far more talented than everybody else, not because they are so far less talented than everybody else. Like it would be for Kyron Wood.
Yeah, like I said that when Derek Henry came out, we spoke about is if you go back and watch Derek Henry in high school, mate, he was that big in high school. He seemed that big in high school, and he'd kneel down, like he'd put his hands on his and lean forward. You know, running backs, they sort of just lean forward, wait and check in, and he's still taller than the quarterback. And then he stands up to get the football, and it's like, you got no chance. And it was the same in college. Like I couldn't understand how people didn't think he was going to be good in the pros.
I was on the. I thought he was overvalued during the whole DeMarco Murray thing, but I'm never ever doubting.
No,
ever again. Like people.
No.
Like I was asked the other day, they're like, "How do you feel about Derrick Henry?" I was like, "I feel great about 2,000 rushing yards this year." Like it's just gonna happen. I don't know.
And look, and if you're worried about what happened this year happening next year and missing some weeks, as we said, go out and get Hassan
Haskins. Yep.
Yeah, because they're just gonna plug him straight in and just away we go.
Exactly. Yep.
Excellent.
Free Deonta Foreman. Just in the 4th round with a different name.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, mate, thanks heaps for your time. I think we covered pretty much everybody that was drafted.
Fantastic. Yes. Yeah.
Maybe the 6th round guy at the Saints in Tyler Batty would probably be a guy you could probably look at as well later in your draft, just because of the fact of we have no idea what's happening in the backfield there and charges that could be laid, and that there's meant to be a video going around, but who knows because we haven't seen it yet. But that's someone else you could have a look at.
Yeah. Yep. I'm on board with that. I'll co-sign that.
So where would you look at picking him up in drafts?
I think he's also a 4th round pick. He's around Haskins as well as a 4th rounder. So yeah, like the 3rd and 4th round in rookie drafts are always like, I just would prefer taking running backs. Because I feel like they're just easier to kind of predict potential opportunity. And if they do actually hit, I think that their hit is higher than a lot of other, wide receiver hits in that same range. So, like Elijah Mitchell went from nobody knew who he was to a like top 15 running back in Dynasty. But a wide receiver who was drafted on like day 3 in the 4th or 5th rounds. Like Ross St. Brown was fantastic last year, but he's like a borderline wide receiver 2 in Dynasty ADP. And I mean, it could happen with Mitchell as well, with how easily replaceable running backs are. But the Lions drafted another wide receiver, so it's just kind of like I'd just rather take the running backs than the wide receiver.
And so from what we've found from talking to you, that if you're drafting in maybe you got late picks in round 2 and 3, maybe just drop back and pick up more round 4 picks, because there's a lot of guys that you'd be happy taking in in the late round 3 into early round 4 and just accumulate a group of guys.
Right. Yeah, I'm all for it. That's my dynasty strategy. I roster like twice as many running backs as wide receivers. I know a lot of people are the opposite way because they love wide receivers. But to me, I know that 90% of running backs in the NFL are going to get hurt and they're going to miss time. And I don't know who. Everybody always laughs. They're like, well, how do you know? How can you predict who's going to get hurt? I'm like, I don't, but I just roster so many. The probability that one of their injuries affects my team positively is so high, so I'll plug and play all these guys, all the live long day, all year long. So I just want as many as I can.
No, that's good advice. Good advice.
Good. Well, some fantastic nuggets there, G. So thank you, Addison, for for bringing it today, and very timely. Rookie drafts are sort of underway or starting. So you've got some good targets there, maybe don't go the James Cook early. I'm certainly seeing James Cook go very early in some drafts. But yeah, drop back for some of that value. So yeah, thank you, Addison, for coming on and spending some time with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for asking me to come on. I just love like the ability to just come on here and just like talk football with y'all. Like it's so easily just able to talk to you guys about football and laugh and whatnot. So I appreciate you guys having me on, and I think we probably shouldn't wait a whole year before we do this again.
No, what we should really do is we should probably get people back on and like halfway through how we stage now at the halfway mark of the season, and like, are these guys going to get an opportunity in the second half? What guys have, what guys haven't? How do you feel about them? Things like that would be a good idea. So we're probably, we've got a bit of a downtime where we got OTAs and camp, and then we got to. It's a bit of a be a bit of a dry season coming up now, isn't it? Really,
rookie draft.
Got to find.
It's just all the rookie drafts.
It's just, and I have noticed. Geez, my mum's going to be at my house in a minute.
Yeah.
I have noticed that, mate, the amount of people that are putting hey, how did you think I did? I don't get that. I'm not into posting what I did in rookie drafts. And you see these guys, how did I do in rookie drafts? And it's like comparing them to the Jets. Well, you should do fucking good because you had 3 picks in the top, whatever. How do you make a mistake? You know what I mean? Like, you look at all these guys and they've got like 3 picks in the first round. So obviously they've traded away to get these picks. But what do you want us to say? How about you don't have any picks in the first 2 rounds and then put up who you picked in rookie drafts, and then we'll say, mate, you've got some value.
Yeah.
But it's just everybody. It's your generation, Addison. It's just just tell me, give me compliments. Tell me how good I've done. Instant gratification. We don't need that, mate. At my generation, I'm 53. My generation, we've just been pounded into the ground so much at 53, mate. We don't care anymore. We don't need it. We haven't got it in the first 53 years, We were brought up old school with a good clip across the year more than once, and you always got the extra one just for what you screwed up later on. But yeah, so
you're like the defenses that the Titans are playing against.
Yes, exactly.
That's right.
Just come on.
Give us a break. All right, mate. We'll let you go. Enjoy your Saturday night. Enjoy your drafts, and we'll keep in contact. And I always see you pop up on my Twitter feed. I probably should react more. Maybe I like to react on the negative. I don't like to pump people's tires up. So when I see you make a bad take, I'll let you know.
All right, please do.
Excellent, Addison. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Addison.
Thank you.
Till next time. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
See you later.
Later.
All right. So that was Addison Hayes from DLF, and you can see his Twitter handle there at AmazeHayes _ the end. And you can catch all of his content on the DLF website and YouTube channel as well. I know Addison does lots of YouTube content breaking down players and film and stuff, which is really, really great.
And I look forward to when we chat to him again about how well Christian Watson's going off in the Green Bay offense.
You hope. Yeah. But anyway, it's Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day once again, and we better head out.
I'm going to get my ass kicked now, mate.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm 20 minutes into getting my ass kicked.
Oh, okay, so we better make this quick. So thanks everybody for tuning in. On behalf of G and myself, have a good one. We'll catch you next time. Okay. And end. Yeah, I clicked end.